Hello and good morning. Happy Monday to you. Welcome to PsychCandy for April 18th. I hope everybody's had a great weekend. A lot of people were celebrating Easter and having family time and all of that. So I hope you had a really blessed weekend and doing all of that. EXO, welcome. Hope I pronounced your name right. But yeah, today I'm kind of going into a little bit of a segment that I'm going to break apart probably into about 3 different shows over the course of this next week. But one thing I want to talk about today is you. The power of you. The power of your own belief. The power of your own processes. What do we allow to become ingrained in our process of how do we operate as us? Oftentimes when we go through all of the different challenges that we might have in our life, be it how we were raised, be it bad relationships, having poor friends, having job issues, whatever the case may be. Well, these events, these situations, well, they create residues. They create things that can get implanted in us. And those residues, okay, those things that come up, the self-talk, the self-critical space, well, it can grow. And when that grows, we start developing patterns of how we're operating, not just with other people, but with ourselves, of how we are acclimating to overcome, learn from, strengthen from the challenges and hiccups that life is going to throw our way sometimes. That kind of that sinister self-talk kind of slithers in, and it brings in those unpleasant and so familiar emotions sometimes. I like to picture it like the 7 dwarves coming in, but a much meaner version. And those feelings of useless, worthless, hopeless, clueless, shameful, guilty, unlovable. And the causes are varied, Could be clinical depression. Could be an overwhelming day at work. A remark from a loved one or friend, that triggers those unresolved issues, those residues. You name it, that list can go on and on, And when we really think about the fact that we take sometimes how we feel and we try to turn that into being a fact. Don't believe everything that you feel, because feelings are not facts. The feeling is that emotion. It's the thing that we're experiencing from that instance. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's fact. So what do we mean when we say that? Like, don't believe in everything you feel. Well, just because I feel useless, hopeless, or unlovable and worthless doesn't mean that I am. It means that that's what I'm feeling in that moment. And this might seem obvious, but emotions can be convincing. And evidence seems to abound to confirm those said subjective experience, We have to realize that a lot of things that we experience in life, well, they're going to make us feel something. If we didn't feel anything, that would be a whole nother show. But those emotions, that's what they are. I've spoken a lot lately about us being able to sit. And guys, I hope that, side note, I'm in a place that sometimes gets a little loud, and I hope that my microphone is okay, so just let me know, give me a sign if you guys cannot hear me or something. But I've been talking lately about when we have different emotions, different feelings, that we allow ourselves the permission to actually sit there with it. Sometimes we have to sit with those feelings so that we can understand how we're processing those feelings. And when we can sit and understand it, that's when we can sit and overcome it. That's when we can develop that healthy process to move past, not accept it as, oh, well, this is what I'm feeling, therefore it is a factual thing about me and my life. It is a factual thing about me. It's a factual thing about how other people are perceiving me or viewing me or how what my value system is of what I'm worth. It's not. It is an emotion that maybe sometimes there are certain emotions that you really haven't let yourself sit with so that you fully understand it. You know, spoke a little bit as a kind of a very topic about boredom. And when we sit with boredom, like, do we allow ourselves to sit with boredom? And usually the answer is no. If you're sitting there and you're bored, you're going to fidget. You're going to grab your phone. You got to get online. You got to find something to watch. You got to turn on some music. You got to get on social media. You got to call a friend. To sit with just nothing, there's nothing. Like just to sit there in total boredom and to feel what that feels like for you personally. Most people cannot answer that question because they don't know. We operate in that kind of space. We have to always have something going on. So we connected somewhere, connected somehow. Our brain going someplace. There are people that I deal with on a weekly basis that if they couldn't live in their misery or have something to worry about or create some drama, then something's wrong. Think about that. And that's when you start to develop that pattern where if you're not surrounded by drama and just craziness and anxiety and stress, then you feel like your life is off. And that's because we've lost that understanding of what is our feelings. What is the actual reality of my world and my existence and my brain space, my heart, my spirit, my life? What is that? What is that for me? Because how it is for me or Elizabeth or Marwan or Excel or Daz, we're all different. So how we process the things that happen in our life is going to relate to you specifically because we're all unique. I can't turn around and say, well Marwan, this is how I handled it. You need to do it the exact same way. It's not going to work that way. And then the other facet is, Marwan can sit there and say, well, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but yeah, it doesn't work for me because ABC. Okay, well, that ABC would be that place of you sitting with how it is you're feeling. We have to recognize feelings for what they are. They're feelings. They're not facts. It's not determining your truth. It is a feeling. Reflection on this realization creates a very essential distance and well-earned relief from that unyielding barrage of negativity, self-talk, criticism that accompanies depression, anxiety, even just daily stress. And it doesn't make the feelings just disappear, but it creates a buffer zone between yourself and your belief in them. And as you allow these feelings to just be, well, when you stop resisting or clinging to them, well, they're going to lessen. They move you through. But we have to let ourselves have that reflection. I say this a lot about giving yourself permission to have some self-love, to have some self-understanding, giving yourself permission to close out everybody else and just be in your space so that you can allow yourself the time to feel, to understand, to see yourself without the input of everybody else, without the input of the 7 mean drawers, without the input of what your brain is going to try to do because that's what you've made your normal for maybe the last 15 years. We have to reboot. We have to kickstart sometimes our emotions. We have to move ourselves into a different space so that we're able to actually feel in the right space and realize that what we're doing is we are feeling. We are not dictating our truth in everything that we feel. We are merely understanding and appreciating and embracing the feeling so that we can understand ourselves better. Listen, when you can tackle that, when you can do that, remember to open your heart. What do you mean by that, Trinity? I mean open your heart. It means that you have to be gently curious. It means that you have to be ever so compassionate and calmly non judgmental as you recognize your mind is swirling and whirling. You've been calling yourself names and believing those mean dwarves in your head. But you have to be gently curious, ever so compassionate, and calmly non judgmental. So before I move on to the second part of this, here's the things I want you to remember. Don't believe everything that you feel. Open your heart. Open your heart to love you better and to understand you better. And just because you feel like crap doesn't mean that you are crap. Recognize what feelings really are. That they are feelings. They're not facts. They're feelings. And then I want you to repeat all those things I just said as needed until enough distance has been created between you and your belief in those negative feelings. All of this is a process, okay? And it takes time, but it also takes effort. Nobody deserves to live within this mindset. And even more so, none of us have room for 7 smelly drawers, I can tell you. We have to embrace the concept of authentic, genuine relationships with ourselves. You guys have heard me talk about this on several shows about authenticity and, the foundation for healthy and vibrant partnerships is authenticity. But that authenticity comes from you being authentic about you with your feelings, with what you're experiencing, and with how you're going to overcome, or are you going to succumb? Listen, I don't want to succumb to depression. I don't want to succumb to feeling less than. I don't want to succumb to the fact of maybe past relationships where I was demeaned or degraded or brought down or abused or made to feel less than. I'm not going to succumb to that. I want to elevate past that because I want to honor the authentic side, the authentic version of me and my heart and my emotions. I'm going to continue to tell myself I am worth more than. I am going to overcome. Elizabeth just pointed out on the back end, yes, the relationship with ourself. The relationship with ourself. Listen, a lot of us lose sight of that so easily. And we lose that place of understanding what our relationship is with ourselves because we start listening to everybody else around us. And sometimes we have toxic, poisonous people pouring in. We have those 7 dwarves that all of a sudden take life in some of the friends around us, some of the negative family that we might have, some of the negative coworkers we're with. And then we start bringing life to that and we start losing that relationship with ourselves because we're letting too many other things pour into it. We start losing that authenticity with us, with who we are. Now, many of us pride ourselves, right, on being authentic. But authenticity is a very tricky term. It points towards an ongoing process of uncovering what's brewing deep within us. We may pride ourselves on being real when we express our honest opinion about what's wrong with someone or become rageful. But this doesn't qualify as authentic communication. And I'm bringing this up to say this. Apply this to what I'm trying to tell you about you. I'm relating this to how you talk to yourself. We can become very judgmental, right, of other people's situations. And a lot of times that happens because we don't want to judge ourselves, right? We don't want to actually look inward sometimes because, well, it can be a scary, dark place, can't it? We feel shitty. We feel yuck. We feel just, ugh. So let's just not even go there. We'll start focusing on other people's problems. We'll start focusing on our friend's relationship. We'll start doing that instead of looking inward at us. But that authenticity I'm talking about, that uncovering what's brewing deep within us, that's you looking inward at you. It is you taking that stance at that time to understand, what am I experiencing, what am I feeling, and how is it changing me? How am I projecting? What am I projecting? And am I being authentic to my true self? Am I being authentic to what I need for me? Am I loving myself? Am I caring about myself? Am I finding some emotional peace in my existence? Or am I building, you know, extra rooms in my mind for those 7 smelly dwarves? For all of that mean self-talk, for that feeling of unworthiness, that feeling of depression, that feeling of sadness, that feeling of being less than, that feeling of not mattering. Am I building space for that? Or am I kicking those assholes out? And when you start kicking them out, that's whenever you start to, you ever cleaned out a room, like, completely? Like, maybe you had maybe you had a guest come or something or whatever, but you clean a room out completely. I mean, gut it. It's just walls and carpet, baby. And you go in there and you're in that space, and all of a sudden it feels different, doesn't it? Because you're surrounded. You're looking at a space of, wow, like, this room's actually bigger than I thought. Well, I didn't even know there was an extra outlet on that wall. Because all of a sudden you took the time, you made the effort, you just went and cleaned out a space that now, guess what? Now you get to decide how you're going to put things back. And maybe you're going to put in some new things. Maybe you're going to put in some new furniture. Maybe you're going to repaint the walls. Maybe you're going to, whatever. But that's you, in essence. That's you sitting with your feeling and understanding it and cleaning out the negatives that you're holding on to. We harbor. We are a society that harbors. We harbor grudges. We harbor resentment. We harbor depression. We harbor anxiety. We harbor all those negative feelings. We harbor. We're hoarders, emotional hoarders. And you got to clean out. You got to defunk your space, because if you don't, you're going to end up with such little room to actually live within and operate within. It's going to be like, where you barely have space to even make a pathway from the doorway to your bed. You're just trying to navigate through and barely function through your house. Well, that can be your mental process right there. We have to take the time. We have to take the time to clean it out, to feel. And you start finding a box, you don't even know what's in the box. It's just a box that's been sitting there for the last 5 years that you keep walking over. That's that place of letting yourself take the time. Oh, I'm too busy. I don't have time to sit and go through this box right now. I'm just going to move the box into another room. No. Sit down, open the box up, go through the box. That is you sitting with your feelings. That is you actually taking the time to understand you. What have you packed away? What have you harbored that's bringing you down, that's making you lessen? What have you done to get yourself into a better space? Elizabeth just popped in. Declutter yourself in your space. It feels so good and peaceful. And amen to that, Elizabeth. Yes, it does. I'm gonna say that word to yourself, peaceful. Now, can you sit and say, I am peaceful? In every aspect of my mind, in every aspect of my life, in every aspect, I am peaceful. And if you can say that, my God, kudos to you. I lift a pint to you. But if you can't, you're worth it. You're worth peace. You're worth feeling calm. You're worth knowing your value, and your value is vast. Your value is above than, more than, greater than. Your value is not less than. And we have to learn that authenticity with ourselves. We have to learn how to You know, realize it. Attacking, judging, blaming others, doing all these things. That is far from what it means to be real and honest with ourselves. And when you start letting your self-talk attack you, your self-negativity starts judging you. And even if you start blaming yourself, sometimes even for things that weren't even your fault, you're setting yourself up to cause more harm than anything else. Authenticity involves a sincere effort to go deep inside ourselves and uncover what we're actually experiencing, and then communicate that. I'm going to read that again. Authenticity involves a sincere effort to go deep inside ourselves and uncover what we are actually experiencing right then and there. And then that's what we communicate to ourselves. True authenticity requires that we pause. We check in with ourselves before we react, before we respond, before we do anything else outside of that space. That we pause and we check in with us. What are you feeling? And are you reacting and responding based on the fact that you've turned that feeling into a fact? Or are you processing and communicating the feeling? No, don't just simply vent emotions sporadically all over the place and then think that that's you navigate. That's not you. That's you opening that box, rummaging through it, and then closing the box back up. Well, that hasn't done a damn thing for you like clean it out. That just kind of showed you some things probably in that box that you just don't want to mess with right now because you don't know where to put it, so screw it. You know? And that's what gets many in deeper trouble. Especially, when you apply that process when you're dealing with other people, when you're dealing with relationships, when you're dealing with your loved one, friends, family. Well, we have to start to uncover. We have to start to release. We have to start to go through. We got to start to remove negatives from ourself and from our mindset. We have to start throwing things away. We got to get that room cleaned out so we can fill it with the positives. We can fill it with our new understanding of our presence of being. I'm going to share two things with you about this. And again, now I've shared this before and we were talking about it from a different perspective. But I want you to take this from the perspective of where I'm coming at you now today about this authenticity and feeling your feelings towards you specifically. This is all about you. It's all about you. That's the topic of today, is the power of you. You. Being mindful with yourself. Listen, there can be no authenticity without mindful awareness of what we're actually experiencing. That's what we've been talking about. And mindfulness means attending to our experience just as it is without judging ourselves, without letting in the mean words, without doing all of these things. And we allow our experience to be just as it is. And oftentimes we don't allow ourselves to experience what is because it's contaminated by all of those negatives and by shame or by anything else. It's contaminated. We imagine that something is wrong with us for having particular feelings. And therefore, that's that process that starts you turning feeling into fact. And we try to fit ourselves into some image of how we think that we need to be in order to be respected maybe by other people. And this is where you got to turn that off. You got to disconnect from that, and you got to sit within your own space without worrying about other people for a minute. You know? That self-talk or that self-place where we turn around, we start to judge ourselves. And we'll judge ourselves as weak, defective, unloving, unworthy. And then it brings in the other things of how we just feel sad and hurt, fearful. And we may be convinced that if we, open this up to actually look at it, that we're opening up a space that's going to hurt us deeper. And that is a trip switch right there. That is a trip switch. And I deal with that on a regular basis. I've dealt with it personally in my own life. I deal with it with patients I work with. That kill switch kind of, And it's that place where we think that if we really open up, we're going to get hurt. And we miss the point that we have to allow ourselves to be vulnerable with ourselves so that we can actually start unpacking that box, seeing what's on the bottom, seeing what we've thrown in there and just left. Listen, having that vulnerability is simply a part of being human. It's a great strength to embrace our humanity. That's not a weakness. It's a strength to understand your feelings and to be able to get to that place where you really, truly, it clicks with you. That light bulb comes on, where that feeling is not a fact. It is a feeling. It is something in an emotion that has come from an event or a situation or somebody's insensitive comments or whatever the case may be. But it's a feeling that we have to understand and then process and then work through and understand us better. And then what? What do? Do we regress after that? No, we elevate. We elevate. We move up. Every time you do that, you move up. You elevate. Noticing and sharing that authentic, real experience will open you up to embracing you in a more loving, compassionate, and kind way. Just a fact. Do you know why? Because it can force you to be in that space where you open your heart. Open your heart. Listen, it's in your heart that the most vast, passionate love for yourself can come from. It's in your heart that space of self-compassion, self-understanding comes from. So we have to open that heart. We have to open your heart up to really let yourself hug yourself, understand yourself, let yourself feel through the pain, let yourself feel through the sadness, let yourself feel through that frustration or feel that feeling of unworthiness. Because we feel it, and then we understand it, and then we conquer it. That's what we do. We have to be at that place where we're kind with ourselves, because a lot of times we're not kind. We're not kind with ourselves. Elizabeth just wrote on the back end, others can try to belittle and bully us, but we can be our number one bully if we self-sabotage with negativity. We need to embrace us. Elizabeth, that is extremely well said, love. We have to embrace us. Nobody's going to love you the best as you. Nobody's going to ever understand you more than you. You have to become your first and most important lover is you. Being aware of our feelings and wants and conveying them in a kind way is more likely to be well received. Now I share that about communicating with other people, right? But now apply that same sentence now back to you. Being aware of my feelings and wants and conveying them in a kind way to myself is more likely to be well received. We all have hearts, right? And the human heart, that's a tender place. People become less defensive and more receptive when we communicate our feelings, not only genuinely, but with that gentleness I was talking about. That self-care, that self-compassion, that gentle kindness, that non-judgmental, calm, non-judgmental place. And then that brings about that space where we allow ourselves, give ourselves that permission to be vulnerable. Let our heart open up. And when we talk to ourselves, I share this a lot. Sometimes the it's part of the right speech in Buddha's Eightfold Path, but I love this of how it applies so perfectly. And again, now turn this back around to this is about you. Before speaking, you might pause and ask yourself, is it true? Is it kind? And is it necessary? Is what I'm telling myself and feeling right now, is what I'm making my reality, is it true? Or is it a feeling I'm trying to turn into fact? Is it true? Is it kind? Or is it one of the mean dwarves whispering in my ear that you're less than, you're not important, you're not lovable, you're not worthy, you're sad, you're in misery? Is it that? Or is it kind? Is it compassionate? Is it non-judgmental to yourself? And is it necessary? Well, is it necessary to sit down and have to go through that box? Is it necessary to understand our feelings so that we can learn us? Yeah, that's necessary. Because when we can step into that space that I am going to become the ultimate lover of myself. I am going to become the captain of my own life and own ship. I am going to decide where I'm going in myself. Because when you do that, you will live in what? Peace. You'll start to have some calm. You'll start to, nestle the calm and the storm in our brain, in our heart. Getting over the pain of our past, the pain caused by other people, other events, the trauma caused by all the same. We start to grow past it because we allow ourselves to sit and feel in it and understand it and grow from it to elevate and not regress. I look back at my life as a psychologist and just the amount of what main things come up. Let me tell you something. Still to this day, and I can tell you this, like I said, with 25 years behind me, still to this day, communication, self-awareness, and love are the three most valuable aspects that people have to become experts. We have to. Those are the three areas. But that light bulb has got to come on. You got to have that self-love. You got to have that self-awareness, because if you're operating based on the whispers of those seven dwarves, well, you're going to be living in some misery. And then that misery is exactly what you're going to pour into that next friendship or that current friendship or that next relationship or the current relationship. And most importantly, that's what you're pouring into yourself, and that's what you're choosing to sit with. And that's what you're turning around and making fact about yourself when it is not. And the danger point when you start living in those made up facts is that's what you're projecting to other people. That is a dangerous, dangerous place to be in. It's a sad, miserable place to be in because it's bringing you down. It's making you live in a context of being less than when you're so the opposite. You are all a beautiful, magnificent, unique, creative light. We are all uniquely different, but we all deserve more. We all deserve to elevate. We all deserve to be loved, and we all deserve to love. We all deserve compassion, and we all deserve to be compassionate. And we're how many millions of times can we hear it? Nobody's perfect. We are all flawed in some manner. We all have hiccups. We all make mistakes. There is no perfect, 100% perfect being. And that's okay. That's what makes it okay. We're all human, right? And we all deserve to be built up, supported, lifted up, loved, cared for. We all deserve to shine and not be dimmed. And no matter what we're feeling, you're not wrong to feel. Don't you ever let anybody tell you that what you're feeling is not okay. Because you can feel whatever it is that's happening, that you're having that feeling. The important thing is, what process are you using to process through that feeling? And are you turning that around to be a negative for yourself instead of something for you to sit with, experience it, feel it, understand it, and then grow from it? And going through this process and going through this space, this is that point where I've talked about this before. It's okay to be selfish in this context. We have to have some healthy selfish in our life sometimes, and this is one of those areas, because this is a space. This dealing with your feelings, not letting feelings become facts, this is something that does not require the input of any other person on this planet. It requires you. You and only you. It's personal. It's personal. It's a space that's going to take you into that deep, deep, deep area of yourself that you don't just let people into, because it's just yours. And that's okay. I would like to open the stage up here. If anybody would like to come up and share a little bit with me before I wrap this up. I hope you guys have gotten something from this today. I've enjoyed this topic with you. You know, I personally, I try to strive every day. I want to make sure that I'm feeling what I'm feeling and understanding it. I make this a self-practice. I've made it part of my morning meditation. I meditate and think, hey, is there anything I'm not dealing with? Is there a box I'm leaving unattended? Have I let any of those mean drawers like come and squat somewhere in my brain? You know? And I try to make that a mindful practice with myself. So I encourage you, do the same. Take some time. Understand you. Let yourself feel whatever it is you need to feel, because it's okay for you to do so. And don't let anybody else tamper with that. Well, Elizabeth, Mark, Sal, Anna, Daz, everybody else has been listening. Guys, thank you for being here. Remember that you are beautiful people. You deserve happiness, love, and all of the beautiful things that come with it and after it. So don't you forget it. And guys, until tomorrow, I hope you have a very blessed rest of your Monday. I hope your week is starting off beautiful and lovely. We just had a full moon. We're still in our full moon season right now. And you know what that means? That means refreshing, a rebooting. It means a time of having some light shone down inside of us for reflection within us. To see maybe things that we need to see. And to get rid of the things that we need to get rid of. So, until next time, guys, be happy, be healthy.